Hey everybody, what's up? It's Hold the Truth Hostage, where if the truth was so important, we wouldn't negotiate with lies. We would hold the truth hostage. Full-time ghosting isn't an opinion or an option. It's the only choice. Full-time ghost. Now, I was thinking about it with as you could see, the title of this video is Black Pill 4.0 population. Black Pill 4.0 prophecy, population or birth rate, or whatever. I should have the title. Give me a minute. Gotta get this crap off my nose. Whatever. But I thought about it, and I'm changing the format. Usually I just do a huge live stream, but the problem with that is the video's so long. It might be like 4 hours or 5 hours or 2 hours, 3 hours stream. And the problem with that is that I don't usually go and timestamp the videos, so it just becomes one content and it could be ignored. YouTube's algorithm. It is what it is, man. I'm not fighting against YouTube's algorithm, and this is their website, so I'll just go with the flow and do what I can do. Now, this is the Black Pill 4.0 prophecy birth rate. Now, I touched up on the birth rate a while ago. I spoke about the birth rate, but that was before AI. And this video is a request. Somebody requested this, and I think this should be the format that I should utilize going forward with the Black Pill 4.0 prophecy, which is just breaking it down into separate videos. Breaking it down into separate videos rather than a whole big video. So now, about the birth rate. Now, I touched up on this way back, probably 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I'm not certain. But I touched up on this, and this was before AI, but this is the Black Pill 4.0 prophecy on the birth rate. The thing is that a lot of countries are going through extinction. There's a lot of countries where there's extinction levels happening. Look up Italy. Look up Italy's birth rate. Italy's birth rate is horrible. It is horrific. Italians are going extinct. You know what I'm saying? I think Italy's birth rate might be worse than Japan, But, one thing I'll say, and I've spoken to people about this on X or Twitter. Yeah, I've spoken to people about this on X or Twitter, and I've figured out something with the birth rate is that we need to ask ourselves, what is the minimum population requirement? What is the minimum population requirement, and what is the surplus? Now, if you go back to America, go back to the 1940s or 1950s, you would see that the United States population was probably, and you could look it up, you could Google it, was probably far less than what it is today. You could look up the population yourself. And I think the population was less than 200 million back in 1950, maybe less than 250 million. The reason I bring this up is that let's just assume the population in America at 1950 was about 100 million. Let's say it was 100 million. So the country ran perfectly. It ran fine with that amount of a population, 100 million. And the country was run perfectly fine. We could go into more detail about, okay, more expansion into states and so on. We could go into that, but the population in 1950 is far less than what it is today, And the reason I bring this up is you have to be aware of the minimum population requirement versus the surplus. You got to start asking yourself, what is the surplus population? As in, what is the minimum population requirement that a government, give me a minute. Yeah, what is the minimum population requirement for your country? You got to ask that. What is the minimum requirement that the government needs, and what is the surplus? For example, let's say your country could operate perfectly with a population of just 50 million, 50 million. So that means anything beyond 50 million is a surplus. It's a surplus, And what's happening right now, with AI, and I've been telling people this for a while, when I hop on streams and made stream myself, is that we're heading towards the age of asexuality, asexuality. Now, some people are thinking about, well, am I talking about asexuality as in people not having sex and so on? No. What I mean is that the governments that require a population are gonna need us to be able to reproduce asexually. One thing we gotta understand with the government is that the government doesn't apologize, man. It usually doesn't apologize, As I said, I wrote my book, Man Vantage. The government usually doesn't apologize. And what's going on with the birth rate, you think it's all side effects of the government overstepping the boundaries between men and women. It's overstepped the boundaries. Now we know the United States, the government has rolled back some what they call that, abortion. They've rolled back some abortion laws, but that ain't gonna do nothing. Men have become what I call, mentally, they become sexually, when it comes to breeding, men have basically become mentally against having children. Every video a man watches is now how the trappings of a marriage is, or having a child is, women bragging about child support, threatening to put a man on child support, the humor that's being found in the destruction of the father. So a lot of men mentally, and I've been saying this, a lot of men mentally have walked away from the idea of even having children and procreating. A lot of men have mentally stepped away from that. And if the government won't roll back the laws that have created this with the family court, give me a minute. God damn, got a mango piece on my nose. Yeah, if the government won't roll back these laws that are creating this situation where men do not want to have children for fear of child support, for fear of the abuse that comes with having children, having the mother be able to file abuse case on you and so on. A lot of men have walked away from even the idea of having children. The very idea of having children scares certain men, terrifies them. The very thought of having a child scares a man. You know what I'm saying? So what's coming now, what's gonna happen with that being a situation is it's gonna lead towards the solution. And the solution is gonna be asexual reproduction, you know. And now that we have AI, I've been using AI for over 2 years since ChatGPT became a thing. I was using it, and I've been using the video creators, deep fakes. I've been using it all. And one thing AI will allow is AI will allow the reproduction of pushing this message forward, you know, pushing the message that the future is asexuality. You know, you look at all these pronouns and all these new things that have popped up, you know, all the new identifications and so on, you know, and people identifying as bi or trans or whatever the hell it is, you know. It's all a psychological destruction that's happened. And the thing is, they're not gonna cure it. There ain't gonna be no cure. Now, you'll see some other countries, Salvador, I think, made it a mental illness, but the public now understands that when laws are changed, be it for the better or for not, they can always be changed again. So nobody trusts the damn laws. Nobody trusts the law in front of them, you know. So what's happened is, and with your Gen Zs, Gen Xers, I mean millennials, you know, and what's happening with Gen Alpha is that, man, even the birth rate in the United States is falling. So what's gonna happen is, with how much narcissism has occurred without the father around and without this structure, is what's gonna happen is asexual reproduction. The future of the country is asexual reproduction. And now that we have AI which will allow people to experiment with it and figure out how to achieve certain things, what's gonna happen is the government is gonna bring in the asexual reproduction. And what I mean by that is the government is gonna bring up something beyond what they call them people. They're not substitutes. They're forget what they call them. Oh man, what the fuck? Whoa. Some type of bug. You know what I mean? What's gonna happen is, it's not asexuality. What the hell? Some type of bug. What the fuck? Yeah, what's gonna happen is, it's not asexuality. What's coming is the government's gonna focus on altering the surrogacy. You gotta understand what the surrogate program is. You gotta find someone to have your children. And a lot of women, with what's going on with how they've have such a narcissistic society, with what's going on where there's no father figures to instill any value into the psyche and the mind of their children when it comes to not being consumed by consumerism. A lot of women now don't find it trendy. It isn't trendy to have a child. You know what I'm saying? Having a child alters a woman's body, her appearance. You know what I mean? It changes everything. So what's gonna happen, because the government doesn't want the population to completely flatline, is that the government will eventually, and I'd say within the next probably sooner than 5 years, because they're selling artificially produced meat, meat that's grown in a lab, with DNA, whatever you want to call it. They're growing meat. And a lot of people think, oh man, the truth hostage, that's just them growing a burger. Well, if you can grow a burger, why not grow a human? You know what I'm saying? Why not cultivate a human? So what's gonna happen is, the government's gonna appeal to the women's sensibilities and the fear of the surrogate, the man potentially caring for the surrogate's DNA in the child. So what's going to happen is the government's going to introduce what I call stem cell child reproduction, where they're going to take stem cells from the mom and the father, and you just need a piece of hair from either one of them, and they're going to intertwine it to create a child, and they're going to grow children. Because at some point, if the government doesn't want to change the family court laws, they don't want to change the laws, they want to maintain the female votes they have, they're going to have to bypass that. And the way to bypass that is through stem cell reproduction. Stem cell reproduction will also allow men to have children without a woman. Without a woman present, men will just basically be able to get their stem cells and another man's stem cells, piece of hair or whatever you want to call it, and they'll reproduce, they'll have a child. Because I've been telling guys this, the reason we haven't conquered space, we haven't traveled or any of that, is it's the reproduction issue. We got to take a woman into space, which decreases your bone density, and have her grow a child in space where there's a lot of radioactive aspects of it. It's not safe to have a child in space. Bone density increasing as it's developing. There's just a lot of high risk with a child in space. And think about the resources. You got to feed the mom and the child that's growing in her. It's too much work. For us to go to space as we want to and to achieve much more, mankind will have to be able to reproduce without the opposite sex. Men will have to overcome that issue. Men will have to overcome it, and that's what's coming to pass. So now when it comes to the Gen Zs and Gen Alpha, psychologically the damage will be there. I expect a lot of, in my opinion, from what I've seen and thought about, I expect a lot less children being born, a lot more men becoming trannies. Look at Mr. Beast's co-worker. There's a video of ISOSpeed. You need to look up this video of ISOSpeed. Probably the number one Twitch streamer right now, ISOSpeed. And he's going with Mr. Beast. He plays a prank with him. He jokes around and tells Mr. Beast, what if I robbed one? What if I took one of your suitcases with $100,000? And Mr. Beast basically says he would call the cops on ISOSpeed. A streamer he knows that has the money to pay him back that $100,000. He would basically call the cops on him because he's uncomfortable around a straight heterosexual black man, but he's perfectly fine around co-workers that are trannies, that are man formers. So you got Mr. Beast, one of the biggest, most popular guys, promoting that. So I've been telling people this, that Gen Z, especially Gen Alpha, they won't understand the age of the actor. Actors are dead to them. They will be raised on the influence of content creators. Content creators. So Gen Alpha, man, and Gen Z, especially Gen Alpha. Gen Alpha won't give a damn what an actor has to say, man. Gen Alpha will be strictly what is my favorite YouTuber and so on. So you got a Mr. Beast, one of the biggest, YouTubers out there. And, his co-worker he's got on there is a man former, a tranny, He was uncomfortable with ISO Speed playing a joke around him. He said he would call the cops on another millionaire when he could have easily sued him. Think about that. Mr. Beast's first option on ISO Speed, heterosexual male, black man, you know what I'm saying? His first option was, I would call the cops. Versus, yo, he just did it on your camera. He's got the money. You could take him to court. But this is the same Mr. Beast who's got a tranny who had a child. I think they adopted a child or something, But I look at Gen Alpha as in a situation where Gen Alpha might become the first generation where they've watered down the male so much that, they'll be asexual by mental design, where they believe in all this equality BS, all this equality talk. So Gen Alpha, I think Gen Alpha will be the situation where the birth rate will dramatically drop, But let's get back to AI. Now, the thing with AI is what's going to happen is they're going to intermix AI into everything, social media, apps, everything. And the reason this is going to happen is there's a high rate of loneliness, there's a high rate of potential depression and so on because the continuity between the sexes has been broken. You know what I mean? So what's going to happen now, all these social media sites have AI. They used to tell you, don't use social media so much, don't use it too much. But what's going to happen now is they're basically going to bake AI into your social media. So when you're alone, you could talk to an AI avatar that's your so-called friend to calm you down, keep you from being depressed, while all at the same time you're still using their app, So they're going to intermix AI into their apps, to keep you more dulled down and more comfortable. When you feel down or you reply to a comment, the AI will most likely send you a private message and say, are you all right? How are you doing? Is your day well? Don't mind that harsh comment. You'll be okay. It's going to train people to think your support system is social media and that you should be on social media as long as possible. It's going to expose you to far more advertisers once they bake in AI agents into the social media sites. As for the population and birth rate, I'll say this, man. There's going to be a major decline in the U.S. Birth rate and population. But with what I said, stem cell reproduction, I think what's going to happen is we're going to see what I call the subhumans. The subhumans are coming. And what I mean by that is pretty soon they're going to lab grow people just like we grow the chickens, the chickens in the farms, how fast they grow, So the government eventually is going to allow, and if not the United States, somewhere around the world, it's going to come. You're going to start seeing news stations, newsletters being promoted that will say, if only there was a way to have children without it being such a burden to a woman's body, such a hassle, and so on. So they're going to start pushing this narrative that natural birth is it's too difficult on the woman, it demands too much, it's too high risk, and it's misogynist, it's sexist. You know what I'm saying? That's what they're going to push. And what they're going to push is they're going to push women who are now too narcissistic and self-destructive and too loyal to their image. We see the BBLs and, Brazilian butt lifts and all this, all the plastic surgery, thottery, all the thought topics going around. So they're going to go into these women's mental and mind and say, if only women could have children without men, if only women didn't need men to have children, this world will be a lot better. a lot safer. There wouldn't be this aggression, this anger, all this massive war and all this stuff. And it's coming because the stem cell research, women will be able to talk to other women and ask for a DNA sample, and they'll be able to grow a child as well. You know what I'm saying? Grow a child in a very safe, non-male aggression, non-animalistic location. And that's what's coming. They're gonna empower women to basically have children without men, And the thing that's gonna happen is it's gonna break the dynamics. The dynamics between men and women in America are basically psychologically, it's broken. The women don't want to respect the men for being men. The men don't want to deal with the women because of the high risk. There's a psychological break, between the sexes. You know what I'm saying? There's a psychological break, between the sexes. So what's gonna happen is that the men and women will basically be pushed towards having children, towards having children without one another. You know what I'm saying? Having children without each other. And the thing about this is that with the men, you gotta look at it like this. A lot of times when a child is born, they always look at the boy to see how strong he is, how fit he is, and so on. So it's gonna create also another economy. It's gonna create the genetic economy. You know what I'm saying? We already have that with that, what is that thing that exists? That I think it's that DNA test, that DNA testing thing. It exists. So I think what's next is that, the 22andMe and all that, where people get their DNA tests to find out who's their family and so on. So I think what's coming in the next 5 years, especially with AI, because AI will allow these scientists to simulate and ask questions and test things. Because what a lot of people don't get is that with these 4K cameras, 8K cameras, 24K, all this high resolution, it's gonna benefit technology such as AI a lot more, because the better it can see, the better it can hear, the more it can accomplish. We as humans have a limit. We got a limit to what we can and can't see, and can and can't hear, but not the AI, not the technology. So what's coming is that you're gonna see them utilize the AI to ask questions and simulate a lot of things. And what's gonna happen is you're gonna see lab-grown children and humans. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna see lab-grown children and humans that'll basically be subhumans that'll age a lot faster than the average human. Because I watch a lot of people talk, a lot of people talk online, and when these people talk, they talk about lab-grown babies, but a lab-grown baby isn't as convenient. You need lab-grown adults. That's what you need. So what's gonna happen is kind of like they manufacture chickens to grow too fast. You're gonna see them grow humans. And the way they'll make money from that is they'll start licensing people's DNA. Licensing people's DNA. Think about a Kim Kardashian. Think about these other people, or Michael Jordan. If they could license their DNA, they'd be guaranteed billions, trillions of dollars. Just imagine if China ordered, 5 Michael Jordans. You know what I'm saying? So what's gonna happen, and it's gonna start pushing before 2030, is the talk of asexual reproduction. And the government's gonna want this because the government will be able to breed humans, breed them for military purposes and so on. Once they dehumanize the growth of human beings, then the government won't run out of soldiers, and citizens. Soldiers, citizens, whatever you want to call it. The government will have a endless amount, to utilize. You know what I'm saying? So what's coming is, I think, with Gen Alpha, Gen Z, and I've said this for years now, is there's such a divide between the sexes, such a divide, and it's well known. It's all over, not just the internet, it's on your mainstream television, it's everywhere. So what's gonna happen is, and I've been telling guys this, men do not lose, men do not remain in losses. But what's going on with the sexes, men will just say, well, man, if we want children, we're gonna have to bypass the women. But before we do that, we also want to make some money off this also. So we're gonna feed into their narcissism that's been created through the government and so on, and basically tell the women, well, you could have a child without endangering your form or your figure, your body, and you don't even need a man. You don't even need a man. You could just get DNA from another woman and y'all could grow a child like that. You don't even need men to have children. And what this will do is it's gonna push the great divide between the sexes, and it's gonna lead to a society where we have a asexual society. You know what I'm saying? Where the men don't need the women to breed and the women don't need the men. But what's gonna happen is, since men predominantly want to have sons, you're gonna see a lot of men, when this happens, just basically have sons. They're gonna have a lot of sons, and the women will not see it coming that the women will basically make themselves obsolete. They'll make themselves obsolete. And the other thing I was telling you about is growing adults. You know what I'm saying? Growing adults is that what's gonna happen is a lot of men and women too will just start growing their sex partner. Growing their sex partner. Pretty soon you'll have a situation where they can design you. They've collected the best DNA to artificially grow you a man and grow you a woman. You know what I'm saying? So that's what's coming down the pipeline. And when that happens, we're gonna live in a asexual society. You know what I'm saying? And once we live in that asexual society, there really won't be no going back. Won't be no going back, as men and women will just grow their sex partners. And we're gonna see them license out DNA to grow sex partners. So you could buy yourself a Kardashian. A Kardashian could buy themselves a Tom Brady and so on. You're gonna see celebrities license out their DNA, so you can now lab grown an adult, and it's coming. Because 2030, a lot of people think, oh man, things is slowing down, the government will give things back in order. No, it goes back to what I was saying earlier on this video. You have the minimum requirement population, and then you have the surplus. So if the government's looking at it as, let's say the government's like, we only need about 150 million people in America. We got 350 million. The rest, the 200 extra, are just a surplus. They're just a surplus, you know. And then the big question you got to ask yourself is, are you on that surplus, you know? So I think by 2030, man, we're gonna see the rise of them pushing towards asexuality, because we already got that going on right now, the narrative to push asexuality, but it's on a mental. What's gonna happen is they're gonna push it towards the physical, you know what I'm saying? And when they push the physical of this, you're gonna see this lab-grown humans, you know. And the military also needs, military will need some of them, because a lot of people are pushing this narrative with AI that we're gonna have more machines than ever before. No, we won't. We won't, because these machines got to compete with the car manufacturers for metal and resources. They got to compete television, all these other things they got to compete with. You know what I'm saying? You won't be able to convince these metal industries, yeah, we want to build some robots. You won't be able to convince them to give you, make you priority to build some robots over the cars, over the orders they get for cars, you know? So the narrative that there's gonna be a large amount of AI robots everywhere, that's a lie. You know what I'm saying? Even with plastic and so on, that's a lie. Where are they gonna get all the resources to build and manufacture these things without competing with the beer companies for metal, the automobile industry, the fridges, the appliances, and so on? Where are they gonna get access to all this metal? You know? So what's coming is, man, with AI, like I said, they're gonna fuse AI into social media, and you won't be able to leave social media. You know what I mean? Your addiction will truly get there. And I'll be doing another Black Pill 4.0 video on the future of AI, you know, future of AI and what it'll do. But as far as the population goes, man, we're gonna head into asexual reproduction, and most likely we'll start hearing about this in probably 2025 to 2026, most likely, when they'll start pushing it. You know what I'm saying? Because as the AI technology gets better and they can assimilate, and the great thing about AI, you need to look this up, is AI is getting to the point where it can generate videos and films, you know. Now imagine the propaganda that will be generated where you show a woman a video of an AI woman going to pick up her child that was grown in a lab, you know what I'm saying? And she could choose the age of this child. It could be 5 and so on. You know what I'm saying? It'll be a lot better for that narcissism. So it's coming, man. But, you know, this has been Hold the Truth Hostage, where the truth was so important. We wouldn't negotiate with lies. We would hold the truth hostage. You know, full-time ghosting isn't an opinion. It isn't an option. It's the only choice, full-time ghost.